Hey chaps, so for this video you're going to need to go and grab a pen because we're going to be looking at the Blues turnaround sheet from week 6 and there's a couple of notes that we just need to make on that. So on this sheet we have several different examples of turnarounds in different keys, and each example finishes with the repeat sign here. So that's example 1, this is example 2, that's example 3, and so on. Now each turnaround doesn't have to be just learnt in the place where it is on the tab. We can actually move it around a little bit. And every time that we move it around, the key of that turnaround changes. So for the first example, the root note is the second note. And that exists always on the 4th string for this example. So whatever the second note that you play in that turnaround is, whether that's an A, B, a C or a D or whatever, that is the key that you play in that turnaround in. So it might be useful just to write above that the root note equals the second note. Now you'll notice that the second note in that turnaround is on the 4th string, so there is a requirement here to learn all of the notes on the 4th string. Which shouldn't be too difficult. Think back to when we did this on the 6th and the 5th string, and you'll remember that we generally go up in 2 fret leaps, so 1st fret to 3rd fret to 5th fret, with the exception of notes E and F and B and C where we just travel up 1 fret. I guess the best thing to do with that is just do a Google image search, notes on the 4th string, and then jot them down and then just commit them to memory. The second example here is the same turnaround as the first example, but we've just moved it up 2 frets, so the key is changed. So the second note is a B note, which means that this turnaround is now in the key of B. Fairly straightforward, I feel. So the next thing to do with that is just learn it from memory, and then start shifting it around to different places, but make sure that when you move it around you are aware of and you know what key it is that you're now playing it in. The third example, which is this one here. Now the root note for this one is always this note here, the first note that's on the 2nd string. So again, a requirement to learn the notes on the 2nd string. Now on that example, the first note on the 2nd string is on the 10th fret, and that is A note. So it might be useful, to just write above this root note equals 1st, 2nd string note. And when we move that around again, to repeat the point, the key of that turnaround alters. On the 4th example, so that's down here at the bottom of the page, that's the same turnaround as the 3rd example, but that 2nd string note, that 2nd string note has changed now, and it's now an F. So, you guessed it, that means that that's in the key of F. So that could be applied to a chord progression, a 12-bar progression, for example, that's in the key of F. Now the 5th example isn't actually movable, so this one's an exception. The root note is the first note, and that's an E, so this is in the key of E. So it's in the key of E minor actually. I included this one because it's really common. You'll have heard it quite a lot, I suspect. A favourite of Eric Clapton's, I believe. So yeah, just a really cool one to learn, and just try and get it in with some 12-bar progressions in the key of E. The final example, so on page 2, is very similar to the example that came before it. Now this one again is movable, and the root note for this is taken from the first note that you play that's on the 1st string. So you'll see on that example that the first note is in the 5th fret on the 1st string, which means that this is in the key of A. So if you was to take that turnaround and just move it up 2 frets, then it would be in the key of B. If you was to move it up 1 fret, you'd be playing in the key of C. If you was to move it up 2 frets, you'd be playing the key of D. Just a quick word on the fingerings for this. So rather than me sit and play them all, you actually have the fingerings in these little circles here. So the one at the top refers to this note, the second one would refer to the second note, and the third one would refer to the third note. So just stick to those fingerings. Without them, your hands can start tangling up a little bit. What would be brilliant is if you could pick maybe two of those, two that you really like, pick 3 separate keys and be able to play each turnaround that you've picked in 3 separate keys. The next step after that would be to start writing out some 12-bar progressions in those keys as well. And if you encounter any problems in doing that, then we can discuss that next week or in the weeks after that. So enjoy these. Try and incorporate them into some chord progressions. These would, if you're playing a 12 bar, the turnaround comes in on the 10th bar. Normally on beat 2 of the 10th bar, but not always. If you want to know what beat it comes in on, then just have a look at the rhythms up here. So you can see that this one starts on the 2nd beat. And yeah, just have fun with them, commit them to memory, and just a really useful thing to be able to add to your playing repertoire.